Hi, it's the crafting author. I got to figure out how to say it. I hope you're all having a great day. This is another reading from Madcap Family Book One. Um, we're on episode 23 called Sunday Dinner. Now, if you remember, Finn came, Elijah came home from school and he explained to Stella that Finn just needed a friend. And it really got Stella to thinking, and she and Kara grew up together and they had been enemies for years. But Stella realized it was her fault, so she wanted to make things right. She called Kara. Kara came over. They had coffee cake. They cried. They hugged each other. And now they are at Kara's house for Sunday dinner. Here we go. They arrived at Kara and Nick's house at 4 o'clock. They were supposed to eat at 5. Kara and Nick's home is in the country, just on the outskirts of White Cloud. They live on a dirt road in an incredibly quiet area. Stella did not remember seeing any other houses on this road, and the traffic was non existent. Looking up at the house, Stella was instantly in love. The house had upper and lower decorative balconies. The porch and railings curved to the left into a large circular sitting area. The roof rose above it to match that area. The house is Victorian style. It is white with black shutters and black tower like rooftops. They got out of their 8-passenger van, Stella's baby, she calls it. They followed the path towards the back door. Kara opened the door with a big smile on her face. Oh, hello! I am so happy you are all here. Stella grinned. Kara, your house is amazing on the outside. I cannot wait to see the inside, Stella said enthusiastically. Stella and Kara hugged like they had not seen each other in an age instead of a week ago. As they entered the house, everyone yelled hi and hugged each other. The kids squealed their grandparents' names and dove in for hugs and kisses. Alden shook hands with his cousin Nick, who was married to Kara, and handed him 2 bottles of wine to go with dinner. Kara called all the women into the formal living room. They sat back while Nick dragged Celie, Tom, and Alden into the kitchen with him. Stella looked surprised. Do we need to help? She questioned. Kara smiled. No. Whenever we have dinners or get togethers, Nick insists on doing all the cooking. Nick is a fantastic cook. Having people over gives him the chance to try new recipes. He is highly creative in the kitchen. The best part is, he even cleans up after. Annie, Nettie, and Stella sat there dumbfounded. Their men would not even boil water. Stella smiled. Kara, do you think you could ask Nick to teach our guys to cook and clean? That would be amazing, Stella begged. Kara poured each of the ladies a white wine. They tapped their glasses together. Kara smiled. I will whisper that idea in Nick's ear. You have my word. Stella looked up and around at Kara's house. These high ceilings are amazing. Our house has high ceilings too, and we have a wraparound porch. But this place is stunning. Nettie loved the real door frames and the crown molding. She loved the way the doors slid open to reveal the sitting area. Did you guys have to do a lot of work to this place, or was it in pretty good shape when you bought it? We had to do a lot of remodeling. We had to update the electric, the plumbing, and the heating. Originally, it had 9 bedrooms, but some of them were small and oddly shaped. We took down some walls, expanding some of the rooms. Now it has 6 bedrooms, Kara explained. Stella nodded. I remember we talked about this last week, but seeing is believing. This place is amazing. Annie looked around in awe. Incredible, she whispered. Nick came out of the kitchen. Dinner is served, all you incredibly beautiful ladies. Let's go. I don't like serving cold food. Everyone went to the formal dining room. Stella could not believe it. She had never seen anything like this. The dining room was huge. A beautiful chandelier hung from the high ceiling directly over the table. The table was set for 18 people. No kids' table. The children eagerly took their seats. Stella loved this. At this moment, Stella decided that she was going to find a way to do this at her house. The children hated sitting at the kids' table. They constantly complained about it. Stella was sure that her mouth was hanging open. She was so glad that she decided to make the kids dress up a bit. Stella glanced over at Kara and caught her looking at her. Kara spoke softly. I am so glad you are all here. This day could not be more perfect. Thank you so much for coming. Stella nodded. Everyone else smiled and thanked Kara and Nick for having them. This table is amazing. I cannot believe the sheer size of it, Annie exclaimed. Kara looked over to Annie. The man that sold us this house left this table behind. He said that it was here when he moved in years and years ago. He said that it belonged here, Kara stated. Nick spoke up. Plus, I do not believe it would be able to fit through a door to get it out. I am starting to think the man that built this house built this table inside. Everyone laughed. After eyeing the table, the guys all discussed how the table was possibly built. Alden was the first to drop to his knees to get a look under the table. Stella grinned. Nick was now also under the table, pointing out the incredible workmanship. Seeley, Tom, and the older boys figured that they might as well join them. The women eyed the men laughing at their empty chairs. Stella smiled. She was so happy to see that it was not just her family that did crazy things at the dinner table. After all the men stood back up and were seated, Kara continued talking about what was found in the attic. This table normally seats 12 with ease. Nick found 4 panels in the attic and he realized they went to this table. The table is already big, but with the panels in, we can easily seat 20. Nick also found a trunk filled with old photographs of the family that built this home sitting at this very table. Nettie gasped. I cannot believe that people would just leave photos like that, she exclaimed. Nick spoke up. The photographs are hanging in the parlor. After dinner, I will show you them. I love the way that they are dressed. Stella was excited, Nettie more so. She is the family historian. Annie made a sound of approval. That is so wonderful that you have photographs of people that used to live here up on your walls. People you never even knew, but are linked to this place. Kara said the more we learned about the McCain family, it started to feel like I did know them, Kara stated. Nick spoke up. When we bought this place, just the one old man lived here. He lived here with his wife and 4 children, but he outlived his entire family. He also was no relation to the McCain family. So the McCain family built this place? They must have been well to do to build a house of this size. They must they just do not make houses like this anymore, Nettie commented. Nick nodded. Oh yes, they were well off. The McCains immigrated here. I am not sure when. His name was Turner McCain. He made his fortune in the cement business. Kara jumped in. Turner traveled here on his own from New York. Eventually his wife and 6 children followed. His wife's name was Martha Ann Dougal. After they moved here, they had 4 more children. I have a photo on the wall that shows them all posed in front of this house, with all 10 children. The youngest child was 2. On the back of the photo, it shows their full names with their ages from oldest to youngest. Annie gasped. How do you know all of this? She questioned. Nick spoke up. In the trunk, we found a journal of Martha's, several journals, in fact. Martha wrote about her childhood growing up in Boston. She talked about her family's move to New York. Turner and Martha were already married by the time they got to New York. Kara took over. Martha wrote about how her husband Turner was determined to build her a castle. She talked about babies that she lost. She was ill. Poor blood, she called it. She also suffered from tuberculosis. So incredibly sad. The children had been noticeably quiet during their conversation. Perhaps the history of this beautiful house had weaved its magic on them too. What became of the McCains? Why did their family not stay here? Alden asked. Nick sighed. This is where the story gets a bit rough. Martha died. When she died, Turner packed up the children and left. The man that the man that we bought this place from said that much of the furniture was still here and that the attic was also full. Annie sighed. Maybe he just could not live here, in a house he built for her. How incredibly sad. But to leave behind photographs and her things? Tom reached over and took Annie's hand, squeezing it gently. Kara nodded. Maybe you are right, Annie. Maybe his grief made him leave that stuff here. The love she talked about between her and Turner really touched my heart. Kara hesitated. In her journal, Martha talked about how hard Turner worked to have the house finished. She spoke of how deeply she missed him. They were separated for a time while he finished the house, working night and day. When he finished, he fetched his family from New York. Turner wanted his wife to walk into this home finished. How amazing it must have been for her to be back with her husband walking into this beautiful home. Everyone grew quiet, thinking about the McCain family. After dinner, they were all shown into the parlor to look at the photographs. Turner was an extremely attractive man. Gray hair parted down the middle, a neat trimmed mustache, maybe 5'9". His wife had long dark hair pulled high on her head, small spiral curls falling softly around her face. Finger-sized curls spiraled down over her shoulder almost to her waist. Martha was quite a bit younger than Turner. Martha's gown, white lace from neck to toe, her cheekbones stood out in a face too beautiful to be real. Martha's eyes were large. She was not smiling. Stella guessed they lived in a time when getting your photograph taken was indeed a special event. They must have been so proud to have their family stand there in front of this house getting a formal photograph taken. The children all posed in the photograph just right. The photographer had a good eye. The lighting was good. Not too bright, not too dark. It was a black and white photograph. You could clearly see that all the children were dark haired, dark eyes, like their parents. All had serious yet serene looks. Even the youngest baby, a little girl, being held by its sister, had a dignified look on her face. Kara spoke up. You look so serious, Stella. What are you thinking? Kara asked. Stella turned to her friend. In an odd way, I'm wishing that I could have known this family, perhaps invited them over for a picnic. You are indeed truly fortunate to live in this beautiful home, to learn of its history, and be a part of it. Kara smiled. Stella, your property and homestead has been in your family for 10 generations. That is impressive. Your family is becoming well known for your superior beef. I have heard wonderful things about you all. I have always loved your great big farmhouse with the wraparound porch. It is perfection. Oh, yes, I am enormously proud to be a part of Alden's family. His family has become my family. His roots, my roots. This place seems magical to me. Carl leaned in and whispered, I have not told anyone this, not even Nick. I'm going to have a baby, Cara said. Stella gasped. She looked around to see if anyone had noticed, but everyone was busy peering at the various photographs while Nick explained each one. Stella placed both of her hands in Cara's. Misty tears formed in her eyes. I am so happy for you, Stella whispered. Cara whispered back, I am going to tell Nick tonight. He will be so pleased. We have been trying for a while. I was starting to give up hope. I thought there was something wrong with me trying to conceive and failing. It has been putting a lot of stress on our marriage. I kept feeling like I was failing him as a female. Molly is 6, and we have done nothing to prevent pregnancy. I began to think that my baby days were over. Stella hugged Cara. Thank you for telling me. I won't say a word, Stella promised. Soon they all said their good nights. They loaded into their vehicles and headed home. On the way home, Stella thought about the history that went with Cara's home. Stella decided that she was going to find some of the old photographs in the attic and get Nettie to talk about who they were and their history. They were going up on the wall. Stella would make sure that her children knew their stories. She wanted them to have that connection. She would make sure that they were real to them like Turner and Martha had become real. They should not be forgotten. History like that should be remembered. Episode 24, School Marches On. Stella was relieved it was Friday. Yes, the kids would be home next week because winter break was fast approaching. Stella really did not mind so much. Her children were growing up. They seemed to be calming down. Sure, there was the occasional skirmish. Usually that was Caleb and David. Stella stood by the kitchen door. The bus stopped. Stella watched as her 6 children got off the bus, heading up their long driveway. Stella was pleased when AJ bent down, picked up Francine, giving her a piggyback ride. He directed Ben to carry her pack, and Ben did. The kids trudged in. Backpacks got stacked on the bench that the kids were supposed to sit on to remove their boots. The kids danced around on one foot, flinging off their boots, stepping in water, of course. Coats surprisingly got hung up. Kids, please place your boots off to the side so your dad doesn't trip on them when he comes in, Stella demanded. The kids raced to the table for their after school snack and drink. They always came home starving. Stella would get their snack ready and have it waiting for them. It was easier than 6 kids trying to raid the refrigerator, not to mention the mess. The kids finished up just as their dad walked in. Francine always ran to her dad with a big smile on her face, giving him a big hug. "Hi, Dad, what you been doing?" Franny asked. Alden smiled. "Winterizing the quads and getting the snowmobiles up and running." Francine got excited. "I love the snowmobiles," Francine exclaimed. Alden nodded. "Oh, yes, we all do, but they are for work, too." They used the truck and plow to keep the driveway cleared. They used the quad with the small blade to keep the paths to the animal pens and coops clear. They used the snowmobiles to run the property boundaries, checking the fence lines. In Alden's opinion, he would rather work with machinery than horses. He considered horses to be too expensive, but what his children didn't know was that Alden was terrified of horses. Alden said hi to all his boys. Stella noticed that AJ and Ben did not run to hug their dad like they used to. The twins did. Elijah always accepted hugs even if he did not initiate them. Stella figured they must think they are getting too big for hugs. Stella felt kind of sad. Stella watched Alden walk up to the 2 older boys. He put one arm around AJ, the other arm around Ben. The boys grinned as their father jiggled them around while hugging them. The boys had drinks in their hands and the milk was sloshing all over the place. They grumbled good naturedly, quickly setting down their glasses. Alden said in a sing-song voice, "Do my 2 oldest babies think that they are too big to hug their daddy?" The boys made faces trying to squirm away, but Alden was not having it. Alden held on. "Hug your daddy. I'm getting old. I need more hugs, not less." The boys rolled their eyes. They knew they were not getting away without hugging their father. AJ quickly hugged his dad and stepped away. AJ got an evil look on his face. "You know, Dad, I am the oldest. Your future care is probably going to fall on me," AJ threatened. Alden arched one brow, grinning. "Tread carefully, son. I feed and clothe you." AJ cracked up. AJ eased backwards, turning towards the stairs, ready to run. "You have nothing to worry about, Dad. You are going to stay right here with me. I will take the best care of you." Of course, I'll be right back. Every time I'm doing a reading, someone tries to call me. It's very upsetting. Alden arched one brow, grinning. "Tread carefully, son. I feed and clothe you." AJ cracked up. AJ eased backwards, turning towards the stairs, ready to run. "You have nothing to worry about, Dad. You are going to stay right here with me. I will take the best care of you," AJ promised. Alden relaxed. "Why, thank you, son." Alden smiled. AJ raced towards the stairs, yelling over his shoulder, "I have a closet with your name on it, Dad, but I will make sure you get your pudding and your protein shake every day." Stella roared with laughter. Alden turned towards Stella, looking outraged. "What are you laughing at, woman? If I am in the closet, you are probably right there next to me." AJ yelled down the stairs, "No, we love Mom more. She will be treated like a queen." Alden ran for the stairs, yelling all the way. "Ready or not, here I come," Alden threatened. The kids could be heard scrambling. She heard them yelling, "Hide!" At one point, she heard someone say, "You ain't gonna fit in there." Then Alden had them squealing. A loud crash was heard overhead. "Sorry, honey. I can fix that, I think," Alden yelled. Stella dropped her head and grinned. Eventually, everything calmed down. After dinner, they cleaned up. All the kids were upstairs. Stella decided to sit down and relax with a cup of coffee. Alden joined her. AJ walked up to the table. AJ started to say something, shook his head no, and started to walk away. AJ stopped. He turned around, started to say something again, but again he shook his head no and turned to go. Stop! Come back, Stella yelled. AJ stopped. He turned slowly. He looked uneasy. What? Stella demanded. Stella glanced at Alden. He just shrugged. He had no idea. Alden looked over at AJ. Spit it out, son. I am sitting here aging as we speak, Alden declared. AJ looked at the clock. Stella glanced at the clock, then back to AJ. Stella asked, You have somewhere you have to be? AJ sighed. Actually, we all have somewhere that we need to be, AJ replied. Stella waited. AJ spoke as he started to back away. His voice was rushed as he moved faster towards the stairs. I forgot to tell you that I have to be at the school by 7. We have a winter concert tonight. Stella glanced back at the clock. It was 6:20. Stella shot up. Boy, Stella growled. AJ moved fast, yelling over his shoulder. I'm going to put on my black slacks, dress shoes, and white shirt. Ma, do you know where my black tie is? AJ glanced at his mother as he reached the base of the stairs. She looked like her head was going to blow off. AJ spoke nervously. I do not need my tie, Ma. I can go without it, AJ stated. AJ paused on the stairs. He looked a bit sheepish. Caleb, David, and Elijah are singing in the choir part. As he dropped that bomb, he was gone. Stella slammed the chair into the table hard. Alden was sure that if you could physically see steam coming out of someone, he would be seeing it in spades. Alden stood up. He put his hands out in a calming manner and spoke softly to his wife. Alden's voice was calm, full of concern and patience. I will go find his tie. Everything is going to be fine. Do not worry about anything. I got this. You sit back down, you relax, finish your coffee, take deep breaths, babe. It is all going to work out perfectly fine. Stella sucked in a breath. She sat back down, but then almost jumped out of her skin when Alden bellowed at the top of his lungs. Her coffee that she was supposed to be finishing was now rolling across the table. Stella growled and grabbed a towel. All you children better go to the bathroom, make sure you are wearing clean clothes, and move your butts. We must leave here in 5 minutes, not 10, 5. Alden turned from hollering to look at his wife cleaning up the table. You okay, babe? Sit down. You're supposed to be relaxing, not cleaning. Drink that coffee. Stella grumbled. She poured herself a new cup of coffee. She gulped it down, even though it was scalding hot. She was going to need it. Stella was not sure how they managed it, but they arrived at the school at 6:50. She was frazzled to the hilt. She was surprised that she remembered to call Nettie and Celie to inform them of the winter concert. They pulled in right behind them. Grandma Nettie hugged AJ. Grandma Nettie fluffed her hair, then turned to AJ. AJ, darling, your grandma needs a little more warning about these kinds of things. It takes me longer to look this good. AJ grinned. His grandpa was standing behind Nettie making girly poses. He made exaggerated faces, pretending to put on makeup and primping his hair, mouthing la dee da. Nettie never even turned around. Celie, knock it off, Nettie commanded. Celie stopped. Shock covered his face, his mouth hanging open. She's gotta be a witch. How does she do that? Celie sounded horrified. AJ laughed. He slung his arm around his pop and steered him towards the gym. AJ leaned in and whispered to him. Mom swears she has eyes in the back of her head. I waited till my mom went to sleep one night to check and see. Celie seemed extremely interested. Everyone found a chair. As they got seated, Tom, Annie, and the kids sprinted over. Egad, sis, a little more warning would have been nice. Annie huffed and puffed. She staggered up to their row of seats with Maddie propped on her hip. She had a giant bag stuffed to the brim. Tom guided Henry and got Henry seated. Stella nodded. Yes, I was telling our son the same thing, Stella sneered. Tom shook his head. Kids, What you gonna do? We would have been here sooner, but we must literally leave the house with a suitcase. Annie rolled her eyes. You know how babies are. They are always spitting and slobbering food on themselves, spilling drinks, getting dirty, and do not even make me remind you about what comes out the other end. Tom shook his head. He shuddered, just remembering. Celie spoke up. Well, in my day, you did not see kids running off to concerts. We worked. We worked hard. Then we worked some more. We did not have all these la di da concerts, planting trees, recycling, and some group that has to tell you about drugs. We worked. We worked hard. Then we worked some more. Who had time for drugs? Not us. Francine stopped her grandpa. Our program, Pop, is called A Drug Free Life. Franny smiled at her pop. Celie looked at Ben, Francine, Henry, and Maddie, shaking his finger at them. Maddie shook her finger back at him with a big toothy grin. Maddie started growling while shaking her finger. She sounded suspiciously like Pop. And that is another thing. I better never catch one of you youngsters doing no drugs. In my day, we did not have no time to do drugs. We worked hard, then we worked some more. And if we complained about the work, we had to go weed 3 long rows of cucumbers and then move on to the beans. Nettie sighed. Silly, we get it. You worked. You worked hard. Then you worked some more. Now hush. The concert is starting. Stella looked down at the schedule. First, the choir for the middle school was singing 3 songs. Children from 5th to 8th grade, Elijah, Finn, David, and Caleb were in this group. Stella rolled her eyes. Not a one of her children had felt the need to tell her about tonight. The lights dimmed. The choir began to sing. The first 2 songs were upbeat, tap your toe kind of songs. The third song was slow. As it started, Stella glanced down at the program. The third song was titled Waiting for Me, written by someone named Pamela Jean. Their voices rang out. Stella finally started to feel somewhat calm. Perhaps this song was helping. Stella took a deep, cleansing breath. In through the nose, slowly blow out through your lips like you are blowing out a candle. Repeat until raging anger is no more. Caleb and David were up on the back top part of the bleachers, probably because they were so tall. Finn and Elijah were in the front row of the miniature bleachers, standing next to each other. The children raised their hands above their heads. Slowly, they brought them back down. I look to the sky. It is a clear day, a happy, hopeful day. I see my future on a day like today. I know who I am. I know my plan. The seasons change, but the sky is always here, waiting for me, always waiting for me. The day rises, it holds me close. I feel comfort, I have no fear. I look to the sky, it is a breezy, windy day. I see my future on a day like today. I know who I am. I know my plan. The seasons change, but the sky is always here, waiting for me, always for me. The sun sets in the sky. The day goes to sleep. I close my eyes. I am fine. I look to the sky. It is a cold day, a blue, blue sky day. Is my future clear? Do I go or do I stay? I am unsure. What is my plan? The seasons change. I look to the sky. It is waiting for me, always for me. The day rises. The seasons go on. I know what I know, I suppose. The children stopped moving their arms, dropped to their sides. The entire choir hummed along with some oohs and ahs. Elijah and Finn stepped forward, up to the microphone. Together they began to sing. Stella's eyes bugged. Her heart slammed in her chest. Her son had a duet with Finn. She was going to go ape mode on these kids. Stella gulped in a deep breath, in through the nose. Slowly blow out through your lips like you were blowing out a candle. Repeat until raging anger is no more. Their voices rang strong and true, blending so well together. I look to the sky. It is a clear day, a happy, hopeful day. I see my future on a day like today. I know who I am. I know my plan. The seasons change, but the sky is always here, waiting for me, always for me. The last two lines Finn and Elijah sang even slower, drawing the words out with their words filled with joy. It was raw and powerful. The day rises, the night holds me close. I feel comfort. I have no fear. You are near. I have no fear. Stella was deeply touched and incredibly angry. She did not have her digital recorder. If she had known that her child was going to be center stage, and if she had been forewarned, it would have been charged. The entire audience burst into applause. Stella almost burst into tears of frustration. The choir left the stage, filing off the bleachers one row at a time. The high school choir stepped up. They sang three upbeat songs. The final song was slow and beautiful. One of the 12th grade girls, Zoe Bennett, the bank manager's daughter, stepped up. Stella believed that the girl had a future in music. Rumor had it that she was going to go to Juilliard. Stella was no judge of music, but as Zoe sang, the auditorium hushed. Stella was sure that she was not the only one with goosebumps forming up and down her arms. When the last note left her lips, the gymnasium surged with noise. Thunderous applause roared through the crowd. Zoe took a bow and then another. The band for the middle school warmed up. They took their instruments in hand. They played three songs. They did very well. Some of the notes got a bit screechy, but Stella was amazed at how quickly children could learn to play an instrument. Then the high school band stepped up. AJ originally started playing the saxophone in middle school. Stella was impressed that AJ had stuck with it, taking band year after year. He only got better. Stella knew that AJ's appreciation for his music would probably remain with him his whole life. He never had to be pushed to practice. Stella even caught him playing his saxophone without sheet music. That had really surprised her. The high school band warmed up while the music teacher gave a speech. Stella's eyes roamed around the gymnasium looking for Kara. They spotted each other at the same time. They both waved. The band played two songs. They were upbeat. Two more followed, slow and sappy. Stella spotted Zachary, AJ's best friend. Zachary and AJ had been best friends for as long as Stella could remember. They both loved music, riding quads, and snowmobiling. Most weekends they went snowboarding. In the summer, they rode their mountain bikes on the trails down the road from their house. Zach and AJ also loved zip lining. No, thank you. When the Westmans would go hiking, they always took Zach along. Stella glanced down. The next musical composition was the last one. She looked to see what this next piece was. It was entitled Ensemble of My Heart, written and composed by A.J. Westman. A.J. Westman being assisted by the Zach Man. Stella snickered at A.J.'s nickname for Zach. Stella read the program again. She started feeling shaky. She could not believe that her oldest son had written and was performing his very own musical composition. What really ticked her off is that he had failed to mention it at all. Stella pointed at the program showing Alden. His eyes got huge. Alden pointed at the program showing his mother. She gasped. Natalie grabbed the program and showed Celie. Celie looked flabbergasted. Celie could not control himself. He shot to his feet, waving the program around. Are you freaking kidding me? What the shit's you? Celie shouted. Natalie shushed him. Every eye in the auditorium turned to look at them curiously. AJ grinned at his grandfather from the stage. He thought everything his pop did was hilarious. Nettie snatched the program from Celie. She yanked Celie back down into a seated position. She pointed at it vigorously to Annie. Annie showed it to Tom. They all had similar expressions of shock. Stella started waving her arms around, demanding her program be returned. So back down the line it went. They could not take their eyes off the stage. They were about to start. The flute started, the violins jumped, the drummer came in soft with his lollipop felt drumsticks. Then the band rose like a storm. Zachary Wills played the violin, not just an ordinary violin. He plugged it into an amp. Zachary stood up. He flipped a switch on his amp and took a stance. He made eye contact with everyone, sweeping his bow across the auditorium. No fear. He smiled like he had a secret. The band members went silent. Zachary slid the bow across the string slow and sweet. He picked up speed, his bow moving faster. Stella never saw fingers move that fast. As he positioned his fingers to play the notes, the tempo got faster and faster. Lights blinked with the beat that poured out of his fingers. Just when you thought he could not make it better, he did. Suddenly, AJ stood up. A second spotlight hit AJ. Stella's jaw dropped. Her eyes went wide, then to glaring slits. Zachary stopped with a flourish. He turned towards AJ and bowed. AJ bowed right back to Zachary. He took up his saxophone and picked up where Zachary left off. Quick burst, powerful notes. AJ stepped away from the rest of the band. AJ started moving and jumping. He began dodging around the other band members. He kept weaving while he kept on playing until he was facing Zachary. AJ bent his body back, his back arched. He threw his head back. He pointed his saxophone at the ceiling, his fingers flying. He stopped suddenly, grinning at Zach. The two boys now stood side by side, now playing together. It should not have worked, but it did. You could easily see that those two were used to playing their instruments as a team. It looked like a duel, each trying to outdo the other. Of course, it was planned. Every move the boys made, every note they hit, well thought out and incredible. Zach spewed notes of gold, and AJ copied those notes. The music swelled, then softened, slowing down. At the end, they hit those same notes together, stretching them out in an unbelievable way. Zach and AJ stopped at the same time. They grinned at each other triumphantly, high fiving each other. They turned and bowed to the auditorium. The gymnasium roared as everyone surged to their feet. They heard wolf whistles, clapping, and stomping feet. It went on and on. Alden was the loudest. Stella was sure. That was okay because Stella could not yell. She was crying with pride. She clapped. She clapped until her hands hurt. Francine clapped right along with the adults. Stella glanced at Franny. She had the biggest smile on her face. She turned and looked at her mom. AJ was so good, Mama. He was so good. Misty tears of sisterly pride shimmered in her beautiful blue eyes. Stella nodded, still sniffling. He sure was, baby girl. He sure was. After the concert, the family waited for their kids to meet them in the auditorium. Stella, Alden, and Franny waited with Grandma Nettie and Pop. Tom and Annie were constantly trying to catch their two kids as they raced around the gym. Cara, Nick, and Molly wandered over to wait for Finn. Franny and Molly squealed and hugged each other. Nick spoke up. Did you all hear the good news? I am going to be a dad again, Nick exclaimed. Stella acted surprised. Everyone congratulated them. When are you due? Nettie questioned. We are due in July, Cara stated. Natalie shook her head. Oh my, it is so hot in July. I am due the first week in July, but I tend to go into labor a couple of weeks early. I did for these two. That is okay with me, but I plan on living in your pool, Stella. Stella laughed. Awesome. I will be right in that pool with you, Stella agreed. Stella glanced at Nettie and Annie. I have been told that I need to get a bit more sun, Stella whispered. Natty and Annie pealed with laughter at Stella's remark. Cara looked confused. Stella leaned in and whispered what Annie had said about her blinding white belly. When Cara stopped laughing, she said, I was not sure I was going to come. I was feeling so sick. But towards evening, I feel better. So weird. Annie frowned. How long does that last? The first trimester, thank goodness. After that, I feel like I can do anything. Nick spoke up. How great were our kids? They were amazing, Nick boomed. Stella looked bummed. Yeah, great. Fantastic. Stella's voice dripped with sarcasm. What's up, Stella? Did you not like the concert? Nick asked. She told them about not finding out about the concert till shortly before having to arrive. Stella told them she did not have her camera or her camcorder. Nick reached in his bag. I got you covered, Stella. I recorded the whole thing. I will make you a copy. Stella squealed with happiness. Oh, you do not know how you just improved my day and my mood. I was so mad at these kids, I swear I could have chewed lead and spit spikes. Nick laughed out loud. I am so going to steal that quote from you. I think I will use that at work. I might even steal cut me a sign that says that exact thing. Stella grinned. Nick owns and operates a steel fab shop. Deal. You use my quote, I get a copy of tonight's show. It was kind of a long reading tonight. I didn't read yesterday, um so next time we are going to be on episode 25, and it says blizzard. There is going to be a big blizzard. So again, this is the crafting author. Have a great day.